welcome to a new episode of Writing While Black. I'm Ayoka B, and this is Angela.
Hello.
And first, I want to wish everybody a happy National Book Lovers Day.
Oh, today is National Book Lovers Day?
Yes, I learned that this morning. I was
Okay.
8 years old. So,
Because I thought the next thing coming up was Black Love for the Bookstore, Love for the Bookstore.
That's the romance, Bookstore Romance Day is August 17th. But yes, so today is just National Book Lovers Day. So I'm gonna add it to the list that
Happy
we talked
Book
about.
Lovers Day.
Yes.
And we'll make it an International Book Lovers Day. So for book lovers all over the world,
yes,
wherever
yes.
your origin and wherever you're living, every day is National Book Lovers Day.
Yes. For a lot of people, that is very true. But let this, if you're not a reader, let this be a day that you venture out and find a new book.
Absolutely. Starting with, if you want to start light, start with Kindle Vella and The Love by Tamu Tamu Agency, or Fully Black, or something cute and fun like that. Or if you want to read a novel, start with Love at Second Sight by Ayoka B.
Yes.
Melanin by Yapa Yapa. So yes, start. I don't know. You think Melanin you could start with it? It might be a little intimidating.
Yeah, maybe that's the second book.
Second book, okay.
to rekindle people's love for reading or getting back into the habit of reading.
Habit.
Yes. So today I wanted to explore gender. I don't remember where, it might have been on an earlier episode here. We kind of got into a gender conversation. I'm not talking about no ridiculous gender wars or anything like that. I mean, gender and the impact that it possibly could have on writers and readers. And so what I kind of mean by that is I can say as an author, I write, my target, I'm very clear, my target is Black women. That's not to say nobody else can read the book. That's not to say nobody else can enjoy the book. But when I write, whether it's a novel, poetry, or creative nonfiction, whatever I'm writing, Black women are my primary audience. And so that's going to be very different than, and so my FMCs, my MCs, my main characters are typically female main characters, FMCs. Although my next one that I'm working on is an MMC, but that's me, stretching my horizons. But I'm just saying, as an author, I think when people write, they write what they know. And so a main character may reflect their gender or their gender identity. And I think in addition to that, I think when we get into talking about who are you writing for, your gender may have an impact on who you're writing for. And then for readers, when I go to pick up a book, I'm not necessarily looking for only female authors. However, I find that that's what I tend to read. I read male authors as well, and there are some male authors that I really enjoy their writing, but I think gender definitely plays a part. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit today.
Okay. I want to respond to when you say, who are you writing for? And I don't know if I necessarily have an answer. but I definitely feel when I am writing, like I feel like I'm writing for Black people. I'm writing for the unification of Black people. I'm writing so that Black people can love ourselves. But I don't know if I think that my writing is probably going to be more appealing to women, but I don't know because it's I'm very interested in relationships. And I think that in general, women tend to be more relationship oriented.
I would agree.
But I definitely feel like even if I were to say, okay, I write primarily for women, I think that I feel personally very conscious of I'm going to use the term male gaze, but not like male gaze, like, how do my boobies look? But male gaze, like I feel conscious of if a man, if my Black husband were reading this, my father, my cousin, how how would they perceive this? Would they feel that this is a fair and accurate representation? I feel anxious about, I tend to be high strung, so I get anxious about stuff, but I feel anxious about contributing to the negative narrative that I feel is out there about Black people in general and Black men in particular. I don't know, like, yeah, so I think that that's definitely an aspect of what is going on for me when I'm writing, good, bad, or indifferent. I think that's definitely going on.
I can
Oh,
understand that. I can understand that. But I would say your writing or anybody's writing, but your writing is going to reflect who you are as a person. So I don't expect to read a work by Angela and it's got some crazy stereotypical stuff in it about Black people or particularly Black men. So I truly believe that who you are is just innately wrapped up in the pages that you write.
when I was reviewing your notes, Ioka, in terms of the topic for today,
Mhm.
what one thing that kind of jumped out at me is the word, I use complementary more than opposite. So you must have used opposite.
Okay.
And so I guess that like as a writer, I feel like, words can be important. I feel like especially good writers, each word, you're a poet, so you know that each word has weight and meaning and significance. And I think that that consideration of words also shows up in the consideration of characters. And I want to loop back to that in a second, something that came up in our Black writers group yesterday. But I like complimentary because I kind of feel like my husband says that he feels like men and women are totally like are two different species or something like that. I don't know. I don't want to misrepresent him, but he said something. I don't know if I don't agree with that necessarily. But I think that there are ways that we overlap and our energy in general is masculine and feminine is similar and ways in which it's different, but I feel like it's on a continuum. So I like that complementary more because I feel like it shows like the flowing and the interaction of that energy. And looping back to that consideration, when we were talking, I don't remember what we were talking about yesterday in the meeting, but Iapo was like, oh, I could never write this, and you were like, it's research. You can write it. You do research all the time. And I was thinking about that, like the research aspect of it. And for me, the research comes a lot of times, I think, because it's character development in deeply considering something or thinking what does this person experience, what are they, what do they feel, how has it shaped them, how does it impact how they move on the world. And so I think that that like consideration is something that is important for writers, that consideration of another. Even if it's a woman, sometimes there are like women who do stuff that I'm like, what is going on? And then I'm like, what's going on? Like, what happened? Why? How are they thinking about it? How does it impact them? So,
Right.
yeah, I just want to throw that out there.
Right. And what Angela is referring to, I wrote this gender that is there basically a difference when you're writing a main character of the opposite gender? Sometimes we talk about people doing a great job or not a great job in writing a female author writing a male character and vice versa. Because as we talked about, although we may be complementary, we are very different in some ways. And sometimes you can tell that the person did not do their research and they haven't spent a lot of time, or at least they haven't paid a lot of attention to people of a different gender. Because I remember Ayapo was saying that he read something of mine and it's from a male point of view, and he was saying that a man would not call a woman's lips pouty. And so I took that. I was like, okay, right. I took that. I was like, okay, I can find another word. And he was saying, and it also, the word that you choose also depends on how you um how you characterize that woman, or how you feel or think about that woman, which I get, because we talked about, it got a little explicit and we talked about the lips. If it's somebody that a man just wants to smash or sleep with or whatever, the way he talks about her lips is going to be very different than if he's talking about his wife's lips or somebody he admires lips, or that sort of thing. So um yeah, gender. And then the other thing about gender is, for readers, I don't know, like when we get into relationships like you talked about, when you talked about being, well, you didn't use these words, but we talk about being responsible. When you're reading a book and it's talking about, you're gonna have villains in your book, or people that you've developed that character expecting the reader not to like them, which is totally understandable. But then for a reader, they don't want to necessarily read, or maybe depending on what's going on with them, but they don't necessarily want to read about someone who reflects who they are, or a female main character always being treated bad, or whatever the case is. I remember recently a Black female author, she did a post and she talked about the fact that she thinks it was interesting. It was an interesting conversation. She said that she thinks that a lot of the female readers are harder on female main characters than they are on male main characters. And she was like, what I mean by that is, when a male main character is cutting his ass or whatever, and if the female main character is like, I'm not dealing with that, y'all are like, y'all want to dig into his motivations, and why, what happened to him in past relationships, and why he could be acting that way, and you're more forgiving. She said, but when it's the other way around, the female main character, y'all posting like she was doing too much and blah blah blah. And I was like, and I responded, and I don't know, some of this could be generational too, but I said, absolutely not. I want a strong female main character. That's not to say that she doesn't have weaknesses, because, if we're talking about relationships, when you love somebody, whether we're talking about romantic love or familial love, or um, I'm running out of terms. I forgot the one for friend love. There's a word for it. I was trying to be all, whatever word I'm looking for. Anyway, we know that love can make us dumb. It can make us, act in ways we don't usually do, whether it's a family member that is treating us badly, but we love them, and so we give them, a pass. I understand all of that. That's humanity, but I want to see a strong female main character that's not going to be putting up with a whole bunch of stuff. Now, I'm not saying a ball breaker, but I'm saying, you know, and that's I guess because that reflects how I am in relationships, but at the same time, everybody is different. But it was a really interesting conversation because um some people weren't copping to it. That's not true, blah, blah, blah. And she was, but in her video, she was like, and y'all know what I'm talking about. So I'm like, come on now. If we gonna give the male characters some grace, then you gotta do the same thing for the female main character. Cause sometimes, people people mess up, people treat others, you know, not the way they intend, or maybe they do. But I'm just saying every relationship is different, every situation is different. But it was an interesting conversation. That might have been a little bit of what made me want to have this one too.
When you started talking, I was thinking, the expression, we raise our daughters and love our sons. So I was thinking about that.
Okay.
It's like they love them, the men, they be like, well, you got to understand my baby. But the daughters, the women, they be like, get
Right.
it together right now. I
Exactly.
don't know if that's true. I don't know. Um, but it's interesting. Um, okay, I'm gonna ask that at the end.
Okay.
But I think that as I'm writing, I notice that, and it's because of who I am as a person, I'm very interested in how people transform. So I'm very interested, I think, in a female and women characters who transform. So like Mama Tamu was, kind of doing the most, was used to like using her body or trying to use her body to get whatever, or,
Mhm.
and I want to show how do you grow out of that. I remember having a conversation with my mom after my first divorce, and I was dating, and I started reading a lot about dating and thinking about it. And we were having a conversation, and she was saying, it's some people, this something to the effect of, it's some people she knows, some of my friends in particular, she said, who they never learn. It seems like they never learn no matter how old they are. She said, I have friends who are 60, 70 at that time, probably 60, who still feel like they can, sex a man into loving them. And it's like, it's not go, like,
Right.
and I remember as a young person, like around 18, kind of realizing, oh, somebody could get older without getting wiser. And that kind of blew my mind. Like,
I
how they
remember
old,
having yeah, that
how they this old and
revelation.
they,
Like,
right,
how you not learning nothing?
right. Or you don't know that. I mean, and now I think about it, I'm like, girl, you're not 20. But I also feel like Tamu, I feel like she was 60, 70 before she was like, I'ma just be celibate. You know what I mean? I need to take a break. I done gone to the ends of the earth, and I'm gonna sit my ass down. That's and so I think there's something about that that's interesting to me, because I like Iyapo talks about a redemption arc. I feel like for people, I always want like a redemption arc. I feel like no matter how far down, Black people, no matter how far down the path they've gone, there's still hope. Okay, so then my question is this: what is cutting his ass? I have never heard that
Oh, you
before.
never heard that term?
No,
Showing out, you know,
you're
being
not
a
talking about
man.
self-harm, are you? You're
No,
self-harm. I know. I just thought it was funny. I knew what you meant when you said it, but I'm like, cut his ass. What? So
but yeah, you were talking about, well, that's character development, right? It's a boring character who stays flat, through your whole right, through your whole story, I mean, you want people to come to some level of realizations about themselves. And it, I mean, it doesn't have to be like a, "Whoa," but I mean, in their in their behavior and in the way um they are in their interpersonal relationships and their actions, you usually see a difference, from the beginning to when we get to the end of said story, novel, whatever it is that we're reading. I mean, even to a certain extent in poetry. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's natural and it's realistic. If you have a character that you've written that don't learn nothing, I don't want to read that book.
But it's probably gonna be some characters, just like it's people in real life who you will be like, they learn nothing,
That's
or maybe they did, but I can't see it.
that's true, but I'm thinking I want them to be
Usually
a
not your
side
main character.
character, not
Right,
not the main
right,
character, because
right,
then they can
right,
serve as a foil. They have a
right.
friend that just don't never learn, just keep doing the same stuff over and over again and expecting different results, right? Insanity. So yeah, I think when we're looking at it as writers, that's part of our assignment. That's part of what creates, good material, good work, good fiction, whatever it is you're writing. Even if you're writing nonfiction, you got to be able to draw people in and keep them there and pull them along in the story. People do creative nonfiction all the time where it may be, a true story, but they're writing it as a story, as they're telling a story because they want to give you the facts and the lessons, but they want you to is want they want it to be entertaining. They want you to enjoy it along the way.
They want to give you the facts and the feels.
Yes, the facts and the feels. I like that.
I want to loop back to you said the conversation you were observing and that you jumped in terms of the difference in how people the grace that people give to female and male main characters. And the other thing when I saw the topic or what you were suggesting, I was thinking about a study or an article I read about empathy that young readers tend to be more empathetic than people who are not readers. They tend to be able to like consider other people's perspective, like they, it just
Yeah,
helps them to be better people, in my opinion.
yeah.
And I think that as writers, as Black writers, I think that there's something important about the process of considering male and female that helps us to be more empathetic as writers, and also helps to create a world where like you mentioned, how they have all these wars that out here in internet and on the interwebs. There are all different kinds of wars going on, um but helps us to like move past that, or helps us to like see that for what it is, or be able to analyze it. So I feel like, not only as like young readers develop empathy, but my theory is that as I develop as a writer, my empathy is growing, my understanding of Black us is growing and morphing, and I'm becoming more useful. So I just want to throw that out there too.
And I
Um,
I definitely say in writing Love at Second Sight, the subtitle, if you will, or what's written on the cover, it says rethink what it means to love. I mean, when I went into writing that book, I went in it with the purpose of trying to have people reflect on their relationships, whatever relationship that is, and trying to see the good in it and take the good and really understand that when you love somebody, you don't get to pick the parts that you want. You get it all. And what does that mean? Are you are you truly loving people, you know, how they are right now, not like how you wish they would be or want them to be or one day they're gonna be, but loving someone right how they are right this moment, including ourselves, because it talks, self-love is definitely a theme in the book. And so that thing about empathy and growing as a writer. I mean, I think in just writing that book and having to come up with the dialogue and the motivation for the main characters at least, and their arcs, it really, and trying to drive home, not knock you over the head, but the vision that I had for the book. I did. I thought about my own relationships and had some aha moments as well. So, and I think to me, that's what good writing does. Um, when you pick up a book, now that's not to say some books I just want to pick up and just be entertained, and that's fine. But I think a good book makes you think about something. It resonates with you in some way, and it makes you empathize in some way and even reflect on, okay, and you may not be conscious of it, but what's applicable to my life, or something I need to work on.
In terms of from a writing perspective, or the perspective of a writer, one of the things that I think about is I went years ago when I lived in Toronto to a workshop at the Toronto Public Library about memoir writing. And one of the suggestions was to just like go to a coffee shop or go someplace in public and just listen to people, listen to how they talk. And a lot of times um I watch things in other languages. And so my subtitles almost always stay on. But I've actually started enjoying uh reading the words as I'm hearing them, even when it's in English, because I don't know, it feels like it's having an impact on me, taking the words and putting them on the paper that come out into the world in the same way that they're out in the world, and then I see them written. Okay, it'll come back to me because
Well,
it's
I
right
thought
there.
about it earlier when you were talking. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I thought of something you were saying. I was like, well, that's the same as you're an actor. What is your motivation as an actor? Knowing the character's backstory and what makes them do the things they do and be the way they are. Um, it's all related in this storytelling world. um what makes people tick, what makes them do the things they do, and how that's interesting, and how you can inject that into your characters and create this whole, multi-dimensional being that people are going to love or hate or both and want to ride with through this story.
As an actor, you get words on the page and you have to make them come to life. When I'm watching the TV shows, the words have already come to life, and then seeing them like flat on the screen, it's kind of like the reverse process. But also, like when you have real people that you're listening to, they're not characters, they're real people. But like imagining, like what they're talking about, like, what they're going through, like, and how those words, how that scene, and also looking at people, like how they put themselves together, Why is she wearing those earrings? What does the color purple mean? I want to go back to saying that a man wouldn't use pouting. I didn't agree with that necessarily.
I
I don't
didn't
think,
necessarily either, but I appreciated it.
but I think you can talk about in general, but there may be like, who is the man that would use pouty lips and why would they use that? Because to me, it would kind of hit me in a certain way. So I feel like there could be a bigger story there. So I feel like like people can do anything. Men and women are liable to do anything.
Right.
But
Right.
so yeah.
Right. Because even the character we're talking about, he's an artist. I feel like artists are a different breed anyway. I mean, that's not a judgment. It just is what it is. And so I just feel like they're more, especially male artists, are going to be more creative, more expansive, more in touch with their feelings. So him saying pouty lips, I mean, he's a man's man. It ain't whatever. Him saying pouty lips is just him using a descriptor, but still, it made me just be more cognizant of when I'm in Mike's head, that it's Mike's thoughts, making sure it's Mike's thoughts and not Ayoka writing Mike's thoughts. So that was good. But no, this was a good conversation. This was a good conversation about gender because I don't know that people really think about that. I think authors probably, hopefully, think about it, but I don't know that as readers, people are really cognizant of it. And so I think this was a good conversation to have so people can think about it from a writer's perspective.
Mhm. And I just want to look back to what you said in the beginning, that you think that you tend to read things that are written, like tend to have be written by women more so than, and I don't know, like I think I really enjoy reading things that are written by men. One of the things Yapo has comments about is how hard it is to find men in these spaces. So men who are writers, men who are readers of fiction, there's a lot of women out here,
Mhm.
so yeah. But yeah, I think this was a good conversation. And definitely when I saw the topic, I was kind of like, but then, it was kind of good to think about it. Yeah, it was good to think about it and good to talk about it. I got a couple of things that I'll incorporate
You can
into.
take back into
I'm
your
gonna take
writer's life.
Yeah, I'm gonna take back into my writer's life. When I leave this podcast life, I'm gonna take them back into my writer's life. But yeah, I got some things to think about. So thank you. That was good.
Good. Okay. Well, join us next time for the Writing While Black podcast and keep writing.
Yeah, today is a fabulous day to write. So keep writing. We need your voice, hopefully. Don't be writing no mess. No, write some mess, but just keep writing and growing and learning. You can write some mess. All right.
All right. Bye.